Hey guys, in this video I'm bringing you all the major leaks and spoilers that have been confirmed to happen in the final season of Game of Thrones. Historically, leaks are a common problem on set of Game of Thrones. Ahead of season 7, if you knew where to look, you could find pretty much the whole story laid out for you. HBO has done a better for season 8 with only a very few events being leaked, which is impressive considering the scale of the production this time around. Let's start with the first major spoiler we know about the next season of Game of Thrones, the Battle for Winterfell and its outcome. After 7 seasons, the Night King has finally breached the wall and is marching his army south. If you've been following Game of Thrones Season 8 news and leaked photos, you know that there's a big battle set to take place in Season 8, and it's been confirmed to take place in the 3rd episode of the final season, by the actor who plays the Night King, Vladimir Furdik. Even though Winterfell will not be the first castle to get destroyed on his path, he will arrive over there by the 3rd episode, which is when this epic battle for Winterfell begins. Furdik let the news slip during a fan convention in Hungary. He said and spoiled in the 3rd episode of the last season, there's a battle that creators intended to be a historic moment in television. Almost the full episode will be about the battle, it'll take about 1 hour. Furdik states that they filmed this battle for 3 months in the wind and the rain outdoors, and then for another month in a huge studio, which makes this far and away the most labor-intensive battle sequence in the show's history, and therefore in the history of TV. I can tell you that there will be no shortage of surprises in Season 8, Furdik continues. There will be a lot of dragons, the Night King will return, and in the season the biggest battle for the throne will be completed. Entertainment Weekly's cover story from a few months back gave us an inside look into the final Game of Thrones season through the eyes of James Hibbert. It's shaping up to be what probably almost certainly is the longest consecutive battle sequence in cinema history. Hibbert said and continued with, they've looked to try and find other ones out there, like the one in the Two Towers in The Lords of the Rings, which is about 40 minutes, and in the movie 13 Assassins, which was also around 40 minutes. This is going to be longer than 40 minutes. It's pretty nuts. HBO has also gone all in on sets for Season 8, building the Winterfell set to make it as close to real castle as possible. According to Hibbert, the crew was up to the challenge. They massively expanded the Winterfell set. You can wander around, point the camera at any direction and it shows more Winterfell. One of the directors pointed out that even in a big budget Marvel or Star Wars movie, they usually only build what the actors are gonna stand directly in front of, and fill in the rest with green screen. But for this set and a few others as well, they built it as 360 degrees set, so you don't have to fill it with special effects. You don't have to favor one particular angle. You can have cameras follow people around. You can do unusual angles and come up with different things on the day of shooting. So it allows a lot more creativity and it helps the actors. No acting required. They're running around these sets fighting with fake blood on snow flying everywhere, torches burning, fires and smoke. It feels like you're right there. To film the Battle of Winterfell, HBO built an enormous green screen in order to bring their vision of an epic battle to life. So who was gathered there for this weeks-long shoot? First we got the Unsullied. And the Unsullied are not the only people from Essos who are part of the Battle of Winterfell. They're also the Dothraki riders. Finally, there's also a shot of what we think is a northern army. And also there's a trebuchet on set. Multiple people will wield flaming swords in the battle against the dead. Out of all the characters we know, Beric Dondarrion is the one most closely associated with the flaming sword. Seems like Dondarrion shared a trick with a few people. Ghost will have a fair amount of screen time and will most definitely fight at this battle. The last time we saw Ghost, Jon Snow's direwolf, he was raising his head off the floor as his master was resurrected from the dead. Sansa mentioned him once in Season 7, but he never actually showed up on screen. There was actually a ghost scene written for Season 7, but it got cut. That is way too much time to go without sight of Jon's most consistent companion, but according to special effects supervisor Joe Bauer, that's all about to change. Oh, you'll see him again, Bauer told the Huffington Post. He has a fair amount of screen time in Season 8. He does show up. This battle is directed by Miguel Sapochnik, the guy behind some of the best episodes of Game of Thrones like Hardhome, Winds of Winter and Battle of the Bastards. Talking about this huge battle for Winterfell, it's brutal, said star Peter Dinklage Tyrion Lannister. He makes the Battle of the Bastards look like a theme park. Writing earlier about this historic sequence, James Hibbert called it wall-to-wall action, and detailed how it jumps between the stories of several different characters. What we also know for a fact is that winter will not fall at Winterfell. This battle will be a huge defeat for the living. Winterfell is on fire, the Night King has won. As you might expect, this battle will leave many dead. Check out this image of corpses strewn across the ground outside the Winterfell set at Moneyglass. We can see what looks like a field strewn with the bodies to the left of the castle, including some that look like horses. Meanwhile, we also have images of a pile of body part props outside the castle and of blood left on the castle walls. As with Moneyglass, the ground at Megromorn Quarry was littered with corpses. Unlike at Moneyglass, someone was able to get up close and personal with the bodies. There are all kinds of corpses. The most surprising corpses were the ones bearing the Kraken sigil of House Greyjoy. They did not expect the Greyjoys to be part of this battle, but if Theon already saved Yara by episode 3, then I don't see where else they will be. However, it could also be that Euron surprise attacked Winterfell with the Golden Company, either before or after the Night King attacked it. Anyway, this is more in line with what I was expecting. These skeletal corpses could be the bodies of whites, or they could be people flesh fried by dragonfire. Next up, corpse blobs. HBO likely spreads these things all over the battlefield and covers them in some snow. From distance they look like discrete corpses, rather than a bunch of bodies affixed to one plate. In this tease, the mist froze the direwolf marker over as well as the marker for Dany's Unsullied forces, but unfortunately the Northern Army and the Unsullied are not going to be the only casualties for the living. It's confirmed that most of the Dothraki will fall as well, and then shortly after be brought back to life by the White Walkers to basically act as their minions. Here you can see the Dothraki whites riding on horseback. What we cannot say for a fact, although it's been hinted by the official tease, is that Dany will at some point burn former Dothraki loyalists. Here we can see the Dothraki marker being burned. Does that foreshadow Dany burning the Dothraki that fell during the Battle for Winterfell? Maybe. After this epic battle for Winterfell, the Night King will conquer the north, and the living, or at least what's left of them, will have to retreat south and once again parley with Cersei and Euron, which gets us to another confirmed event. Jon Snow will return to King's Landing in episode 4. At the end of season 7, Jon Snow was headed home to Winterfell. He will not stay there. For the first time in the history of the series, Starkid Harrington was filmed shooting something in Dubrovnik, meaning that the King in the North is headed back to King's Landing at some point in season 8. In this photo, Harrington is at Dubrovnik's Mincerra Tower, which is part of the city walls. There's also this mysterious shot of Jon Snow being escorted along the walls by a couple of men in black, Jon and Cersei meeting King's Landing. Let's move from the Mincerra Tower to Bolker Fortress, another impressive structure on the Dubrovnik city walls. As you can see, a Lannister flag flies above the fortress, so whatever scene is filmed there takes place when Cersei is still in charge. Cersei and Jon Snow meet one-on-one in King's Landing. Well, not exactly one-on-one, as Cersei has the mountain and her Queensguard by her side. The final major spoiler we know is taking place in the final season of Game of Thrones is the fall of the capital, King's Landing. As some of you may know, for the final season of Game of Thrones, the production, for the very first time, instead of filming King's Landing scenes in Dubrovnik, they decided to make a huge King's Landing set in Belfast and film most of the scenes there. Why did they build city buildings to resemble the city they used for King's Landing all these years, instead of filming at actual medieval old towns as they usually do? That's because Game of Thrones is not allowed to burn cities to the ground. As construction for King's Landing set focused on polishing the city walls, inside the set streets a famous Dubrovnik landmark has been faithfully reproduced. The crew built a whole city street. At one end there's the gate, and at the other the front of the Red Keep. In between there are all manner of buildings. The most notable are the city gates and the King's Landing dome. However, as you can see in these leaked photos, the set has been modified to appear burned down with a huge breach between demolished towers. The city gate has been obliterated and the towers that once protected it have fallen. The Night King has burned down a huge portion of the capital, including his landing dome, using his undead dragon. How can I know for sure that this is the Night King's doing, rather than the result of Cersei using wildfire and burning down the entire city? Even though Burnt King's Landing set would seem to support the theory in which Cersei burns down the entire city, the answer is no. Wildfire is not the reason this part of King's Landing set is being burned down, it's dragonfire. How do I know? It's simply due to the fact that the show built a King's Landing set mainly to do light pyrotechnics. It means that some parts of the capital will be burned down by a dragon, as dragonfire in Game of Thrones is portrayed by light pyrotechnics. The Night King's dragon that is responsible for a huge portion of the capital being burned down has also been spotted on this King's Landing set. Yes, dragons are visual effects magic mostly. However, when performers have to interact with dragons, a number of methods are used to make it work. For example, if Dany has to touch the dragon's head, any dragon head shaped object will do, such as this one was used when the dragons were babies. This is the Night King touching Viserion's head in the last season. If actors have to actually mount a dragon, part of its spine has to be physically recreated, which is exactly what this massive contraption on King's Landing set is. This massive contraption being on this very same set means that the Night King will at some point decide to land in King's Landing, perhaps in the final episode. I've known that dragons will eventually fly over King's Landing, as Bran saw it in his vision of the future. However, I did not quite expect it to be the Night King flying Viserion. I expected it to be Dany riding Drogon. Perhaps it will be both. Whichever dragon shows up and whoever rides it, Cersei will be ready. Qyburn has made new Scorpion Ballista for his queen, as seen in this leaked photo from King's Landing set. Anyways, it's not only the dragons who are showing up at the capital, Dany's armies are coming as well. The Unsullied and the Dothraki also visit King's Landing, or at least a little of them survived Battle of Winterfell. Here you can see the Unsullied and what's left of the Dothraki marching towards King's Landing gates. Cersei probably intends to use wildfire and burn the entire King's Landing to the ground, once the living and the dead start fighting inside her city, and that way get rid of all her enemies. It's possible that by this point Cersei, Dany and Jon Snow have teamed up and are fighting the White Walkers together, but it's just as likely that Cersei won't see the reason, and Dany has commanded her armies to assault the city walls. So basically Jon Snow arrives in episode 4 at the capital and meets Cersei. Sometime later, Dany's armies come as well, and a dragon flies above King's Landing, and a dragon or even dragons land there as well. The capital is then burned down. In conclusion, we know 4 major spoilers about the final season of Game of Thrones. Number 1, epic Battle of Winterfell in episode 3, the Night King wins, Winterfell is on fire, many die. Number 2, Ghost is back. Number 3, Jon Snow goes back to the capital, parleys with Cersei in episode 4. Number 4, King's Landing is burned down. That's pretty much all the major leaks and spoilers that have been confirmed to happen in the final season of Game of Thrones. Hopefully the upcoming trailers will give us something more. And as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.